Wow. And how does like a traditional normal ketamine session flow? So you have a few initial sessions so that you get to know the patient, and then like how would it normally play out?
Yeah, so typically I do an initial therapy session where I'd be assessing and diagnosing, getting a good sense for where the person's at, what they're hoping to get out of it, um, and things like their history. So looking for things like trauma, abuse, um, but also then looking for things like spiritual practices, different relationships where people who they feel comfortable talking about those kind of things too. Um, so getting all that information, and then from there shifting to kind of giving them an overview of like what to expect, and then some different models, some sort of frameworks for unpacking their experiences, so that they're um, yeah when you can bring back the experience and have some frameworks to sort of analyze it from, you can get a lot more benefit. So that's the initial session, and from there, then we move on to doing ketamine lozenge session. uh, so lozenges are ideal for lower doses. um, so what we're doing typically is giving them, we do them in 100 milligram doses. So they do a initial medical intake with a doctor, just kind of checking over, make sure there's no serious thing that's going to hold them back from it. Which ketamine is super safe too. They use it in pediatric like surgeries, and I mean there's not many things that get in the way of people using it. But anyway, then we set up the initial session. So I create a lot of playlists for it, using world music, ambient music. I'll use different like electronic stuff. Um, so the idea behind that is really kind of keeping the flow to, I'd say like two key things are the flow and the space, right? So when you like listen to music, if you kind of keep that in mind, right? Like how does this open up space, and what kind of space does it open? And then how does this move me along? So when I'm designing a playlist, I'm not wanting it to say drive them at a fast pace the whole time. I want some time where it feels spacious, where they can kind of explore, but I also am incorporating sometimes a little faster paced stuff, so they don't get stuck. Um, and music in that way is very helpful for using it therapeutically. And Stan Groff has like written a lot on that too. So that's kind of one piece, is having a playlist set up for them. Um, and then typically I read an invocation. So it could be a poem. It could be something that would feel a little more like a guided meditation, like getting them in touch with their breath and their body. But that's sort of setting the tone and mood of the trip. So as I'm doing that, they're lying down on either a couch or a bed, and we have blackout eye shades, um, and then I offer them the lozenges. So they start with one, they take that, you swish around your mouth for about 10 minutes. By that time, you're starting to feel the effects of it. And one of the cool things with ketamine, compared to something say like psilocybin, um, is it's got the sort of anesthetic qualities to it, which physically are very relaxing, and mentally are also very. It often puts people in this sort of at ease state. So by 10 minutes, most people are starting to feel that. Um, and then after that, I wait a little bit and then check in. Are you feeling good where you're at? Do you want to go further? Um, And generally, if what I encourage them is if there's part of you feeling like you want to go further, like jump right in. You might as well. You already paid for it. Like, let's get the full impact. Um, so then I offer 1 to 2 more of them. If someone wasn't feeling much at all, I'd probably go 2 usually. Uh, so same process there. Hold it in 10 minutes, switch it around. By that point, they're getting pretty deep into it. It's uh, so in kind of the psychedelic therapy, there's 2 different categories to think of. One is psychedelic therapy, which would be like mind manifesting, right? That's the kind of like traditional trip. And then there's psycholytic. Psycholytic is mind loosening or ego loosening. So on lozenges, we're generally going more for like a psycholytic state. So when someone gets in that, they feel very at ease. They feel very disinhibited, more connected with their emotions. So often there's a good stretch of the trip where they will be, they'll just be sharing like all these insights that are coming up. They just freely flow. And so during that, I'm writing down a lot of what they're saying, often just giving a little bit of feedback. But when people are in that state, they do a lot of the work. It's not like I'm sort of a guide in the sense that like I'm running things. I'm more kind of keeping the space for them and keeping them moving if maybe they're getting a little disoriented or need just some direction. So that's the first session. When they come back down from it, which is typically within an hour, someone's dropping down to kind of an in-between state between normal consciousness and like the full-blown ketamine state. So at that point, we're kind of starting to like, what are the insights you've got? Let's start putting this together. And then about after that, so around like the 2-hour mark usually, is where someone feels like they could move around. This sort of, because you get dizzy with it, sometimes nauseous, but often like you can get kind of swirly vision and light sensitivity. So by the 2-hour mark, that's usually wearing off for people. So then we move to a setting where they're able to sit up more. We offer some food for them to kind of recharge. And that starts to feel a little more like a typical therapy session where we're exploring the insights they've got. We're looking at ways they can integrate it, how this has shifted their understanding of their life. And so one of the things that's also doing that first session is that's giving us a good sense of their sensitivity to ketamine. So based on that, and based also on their just individual needs, like what they're looking for, we might prescribe them ketamine to take at home. And so they would pretty much do what we did in that session at home. And we do a quick check-in like over phone before and after their at-home sessions, to see how it's going. And then we'll often have like weekly therapy sessions where we continue to integrate it. And then from there, we do at least an additional 2 sessions. That's kind of like the minimum standard we encourage is 3 sessions. So the next 2 are both going to be intramuscular injection sessions. And that's kind of like that's the payoff. That's kind of the gold mine of the ketamine experience. And from what I can tell, a lot of like recreational use, people aren't hitting that level. You got your kind of psychonauts that go there, but I think a lot of people start hitting that space and you can't hold together your thoughts anymore. Your sense of reality starts to go. And so for a lot of people, I think they start to look at that as they're kind of topping out on what the drug has to offer. But therapeutically, to me, I'm like, that's the gold. Like that's what you want to step into.
And that's what's called the K-hole, right?
The
Is
K-hole, yeah.
okay.
K-hole, like a term we'll use for it therapeutically is ego dissolution.